Craft your Dragon Slayer sword! Make your own best-in-slot armor that rivals the best of the eye levels that you can find in the game with the new crafting professions here in Dragonflight. And you might look at the crafting professions and say, man, this is a lot of stuff. I don't get how that's done, how this is done, and how you make all of this all together. Well, you have come to the right place, because we will give you every information that you need to start off with your professions, whatever profession you do decide to choose. It is actually a lot, so make sure you stay tuned so you don't miss like important bits, because I don't know how we can give you all of this information and not sit here all day telling you why it's important to get a job inside of the game that you play outside of your job when you don't want to work at your job. Is that clear? Let's move on to the professions, man. We will go over all of the major changes and what you should know when it comes to getting a new profession in Dragonflight. But quick note, although we have the timestamps for this video, I do recommend you watch the whole thing front to back, because there are a bunch of details that you might miss if you skip a particular section that will be relevant to you doing better with your profession and getting higher item level gear. First of all, yes, you should get a profession, and as early as possible. It will give you a decent chunk of experience if you do decide to level with also getting a profession, even though the experience has been nerfed, especially if you religiously dedicate your time to the profession, which is also something I strongly suggest. The profession system is very deep, and it conveniently unlocks all of its features as you go through the zones if you pick up all of the quests on your way, at the very least the profession quests from the respective NPCs, which are quite a few. There's actually a lot going on with the new profession system, and we won't be able to cover all of the small details and intricate information on specific professions here. But if you enjoyed the video and you would love to see more in-depth approach to each individual profession, hit the like button. No, really, no scam, we don't usually do this on our channel, so we would be interested to know how many people would watch if we decided to make a series about everything related to professions in Dragonflight. You might have already noticed that the professions are looking way different, but what exactly has changed? First of all, let's talk about the interface, which of course applies to past expansion professions as well. You'll notice what we believe to be an awesome upgrade to the visuals. The skill bar has been pizzazzed with a unique artwork for each individual profession, and it's central to your UI, showcasing your progression into mastering your craft. The recipes themselves are no longer colored based on whether they give you skill points or not, but instead have an icon to the side that indicate the number and likelihood of leveling up your profession skill bar. And as with the last expansion, you can influence your recipe to further dictate the stats you can craft an item with when it comes to crafting professions, of course, by choosing optional reagents. Not all professions will have this option, but the ones that do can have the final item quality be influenced and improved on as a consequence. And to go with this, the quality of each item where it will apply will be indicated by icons related to each tier of quality from 1 to 5. This will most of the time dictate the eye level of the item, if you're crafting armor, weapons and such, or the strength of the buffs if you're crafting stuff like potions, with alchemy of course. Also, if you have done the Primalist invasions in the pre-patch, you might have looted the new reagent bag. Wait, you didn't? You have a new bag slot for the new brand new reagent bag new thing. These can be made by tailors, but you can also get them as quest rewards. The Gatherer's reagent pouch is the one I currently have, and I got this as a quest reward from Miguel in Anoran Plains. You can only have profession materials in it, and it doesn't take up one of your regular bag slots. The second thing to know about the professions that only apply in Dragonflight so far is that they now have secondary stats. These stats are given by profession equipment, which I will discuss in a moment, but also your profession progression tier, also mentioning it in a moment. The stats will influence your activity depending on which ones you have and how much you have of them. First of all, gathering professions like skinning and herbalism have 3 stats: finesse, deftness, and perception. Finesse increases your chance to gather more of the material you are engaged with. Deftness makes you gather them faster, which is always good when on the move a lot. And perception will increase the chance to gather rare materials. The reason being is that the core materials for each profession are only a few. Mining, for instance, can only interact with 2 ore types, but there are chances of gathering rarer materials from the same resources based on your skill and so on. For instance, some ore nodes will be charged with elemental magic. Certain beasts provide a unique part of their body, like the pristine Vorkin horn and so on. These offer the variety in materials and make it efficient to gather what you need. Not necessarily a new mechanic, but a much improved one. Also, now you can skin the same beast as someone else who has also assisted in its kill, as opposed to people stealing leather like before. For crafting professions, you'll have 4 stats, starting with Inspiration, which will influence the quality of the craft. This is what I mentioned before. Inspiration can change the level of an item, for instance, all with a % chance to proc. Resourcefulness is a stat that gives you the chance to consume fewer materials in crafting something. Obviously, this is pretty good for self-explanatory reasons. Crafting speed is also self-explanatory, this being your 3rd stat. And multi-craft being your last is a stat, or at least a mechanic, we had before. This gives you a chance to craft multiple copies of the item you are attempting to craft. It will not work on actual armor, weapons, trinkets, and things of the sort, but does work on stuff like potions and general consumables. This stat has the potential to be the biggest moneymaker for your profession if such is your goal, so be on the lookout. And with stats covered, we can talk about equipment. Depending on your profession, you can augment it with 1 to 3 pieces of profession-specific gear. You'll notice this on the top right-hand side of your profession window. Crafting professions such as leatherworking and skinning have 2 accessory slots and 1 tool slot, so 3 in total. Others, such as cooking, has only 1 of each, while fishing has only the tool slot in which you can actually equip your fishing pole and have it be the default visual fishing pole you will use while actually fishing. And that goes the same for the rest. With the skinning profession as an example, when you skin a beast, your character will visually showcase the skinning equipment on you as a transmog. These will revert back to your normal transmog once you engage in actual combat. Overall, these equipment pieces can be crafted by other professions, so the general feel is to incentivize people to interact with other crafters and not be 100% self-reliant. Equipment is not the only system that does this, and yeah, some people may like it, some people may not, but at the end of the day, it does bring back a social aspect to the game that we have kind of been playing without, which I personally 100% support. The biggest system introduced that lets people connect to other crafters is the crafting order system. This actually doesn't require you to have any specific profession, or any profession at all for that matter. Think of this as an auction house-like system. What you generally do is you put an order for an item to be made by someone. A crafter will see the request and craft it if they like, and the item will be mailed to you. For testing purposes, this is close to impossible to do right now since nobody is interacting with it as of recording this video, so I pretty much had to do it with my own alts, which you can do. Mostly because the gear that people would like to have crafted is bind on pickup gear, and this is harder to make in the first week of the expansion. However, the value of this will only increase as the expansion progresses, and not everyone will be able to 100% craft everything they need. This also helps people that are alchemists, for instance, but still want leather armor crafted, since crafted gear actually goes for a pretty high eye level, all the way to mythic raid level gear. But of course, the higher the eye level, the more expensive it can get. And now we can explain the actual process. There are 3 types of crafting orders. There is the public order. You choose an item and issue a crafting order for it, and anyone on your server can make it. You'll have to supply the materials and also offer a commission, which is a nice way to say you paid the gold to the crafter for making you the item. The second type of crafting order is the guild order. As you might infer, your guildies will see this order and one of them will craft it. You can get away without providing all of the materials. Stuff like Sparks of Ingenuity and Primal Chaos will be required, however. And the last order type is the personal order, and you can actually aim this at any one specific individual. There doesn't seem to be a server prerequisite here, although it's kind of buggy at the moment, so you can even put this for your own alts. Still need to provide mats such as Sparks and Primal Chaoses here as well. The Spark itself is a time-getting material and crucial to make high-level items, and we will talk about it in a second. In all of the orders mentioned, you can provide optional reagents to augment the item in a way that benefits you. You can add infusions to further boost its eye level, you can add missives to set the stats you want them to have, and even add some quirky effects to it depending on the item. Obviously, you can do all of these alterations to your own crafting items as well. The acquisition of these mandatory materials, and also the ones that actually boost the level of the item to mythic grade level, will drop in the actual difficulty of the content so far. And with that, up until this point, items seem to be able to reach 418 item level, which is middle tier eye level for Mythic Vault of the Incarnates, considering the raid loot pool varies from 415 to 421. It's a decent upgrade that still makes raiding give you the best eye level possible, but also craft the gear be mythic equivalent in its overall value. Almost all of the professions will have specializations. Specializations are similar in effect to what you might have experienced in other expansions, but now they are well more developed. Specs for professions dive deeper into what they can do, and the number of specs depend on the actual profession. I will be using my example for this since this is where I have the most experience. Leatherworking has 4 specs, while skinning has only 3. Cooking and fishing, for example, have none. Specs improve that aspect of your profession, and for better or worse, leatherworking is probably the best example for this. You have the obvious mail armor crafting and leather armor crafting specs that make it better for you to craft those specific armor types. But you also have leatherworking discipline that provides bonus stats to where you want to put points in. Primordial leatherworking deals with advanced recipes that we will save for a potential future video on leatherworking in particular, if you are interested of course. Each spec for each profession requires knowledge points to unlock the bonuses and actual advanced recipes for higher eye level stuff. These points are gathered from all sorts of activities in the Dragon Isles. You can get them from one-time treasures, items out in the world, and there are only a few of those for every profession. You can also have a chance to loot them in scout packs found in the world and unlocked by having renown level 2 with Dragon Scale Expedition. Additionally, you can find them in the respective gathering nodes or beasts you interact with. They can be rewarded from master crafters of your respective professions if you can find their secret location. And this is a good time to mention the Artisan Consortium. This is a special faction that is strictly related to crafters. You get reputation with them by doing profession quests found all throughout the Dragon Isles. Not only do their dailies reward you with knowledge points to spend in your specs, but you also have a quartermaster that can offer you items to buy with Artisan Metal. Artisan Metal is a material you kind of passively get as you craft and level up your profession, and more specifically, when you gain knowledge points, and with it you can buy stuff like rare Skinner's Notes and rare Leatherworker's Diagrams that both give you a lot of skill points to spend, so they kind of loop with each other to a degree in this sense. Unlocking the entire spec tree will take a lot of points and a lot of time, but it's not impossible. It is made so it's not quick, further incentivizing people to focus on a specific path to their profession. For the most part, actual crafting has remained the same. You have materials, you craft. There are a few things to keep an eye out for. The first craft system is when you craft an item for the first and only time. When you do this, you get a fat chunk of experience if you're still leveling. Remember when I said you can get a lot of XP? Well, this is one of the ways how. You obviously get Artisan Metal, like I mentioned as well, but also knowledge points for your spec. So yeah, you will at one point, if not immediately, want to always get all of the first crafts out of the way. Another thing you will notice in your profession window is the recipe difficulty. This is the number you want to hit to be able to craft the item at max quality. And of course, the lower your skill, the lower your end quality will be for that item. Recipe difficulty will be affected by a few things. First of all, the baseline difficulty it comes with. For instance, a flame-touched handguards will have a baseline 280 difficulty. Baseline, this item will be crafted at 382 item level, but I have a skill level of 148 right now, which makes me able to craft this at 386 eye level. I can also add optional reagents to it to augment the item further with stats and even extra eye levels, oddly enough, and this will increase its difficulty even higher, making it harder to hit max quality. Your skill level is influenced by the level of your profession, clearly, but also gained from your sub-spec. Additionally, increasing your skill is accomplished by using higher quality materials. Yep, the quality tiers apply to mats as well. I am using ranks to 3 scales, which is why it seems I am only halfway towards getting the best version of these handguards that I could get. My equipment also provides me with a bunch of stats, and one specific one is giving me 6 skill points into leatherworking from Draconian Leatherworker's Knife. This system applies to other less similar professions such as alchemy, where the quality of the craft dictates the strength of the buff you get from potions and phials and so on. Not every profession has crafting quality. Cooking seems to be static at the moment. Also, it seems that some tooltips are just wrong either in the game or online from what we have found. Just a heads up, but the overall effect should work as intended. And I mentioned before special materials to keep in mind that you can farm whenever you want to craft high-level stuff. Spark of Ingenuity is one of them, and this is a weekly material you get from doing the questline in Valdrakken. It's good to not skip on this since it's the main ingredient to high-level crafts, and you can only get one per week, whether you craft that item yourself or you issue a crafting order. Primal Chaos is the other generic ingredient. This drops from Scouts packs, Heroic Dungeon and bosses, and the Disturbed Dirt that you can dig up. This in particular requires you to be Renown 5 with the Dragon Scale Expedition and buy their shovels from the base camp or have blacksmiths make them. The Dirts and Scouts pack can be found throughout the Dragon Isles, and an add-on we recommend you have is Silver Dragon that pops very obvious notifications whenever you are near one. And the last bits are the Rousing Elemental materials, specifically Rousing Earth, Fire, Frost, Air, Decay, Ire, and Order. These can be found either from elemental mobs of their respective type, but also mined and herbed from nodes infused with elemental power. Ire can be found with war mode on, so keep that in mind. Order, on the other hand, can be gained from mining nodes or gathering herbs with the Titan Touched buff acquired from unlocking the Titan Touched sub-spec. These can be turned into awakened versions of themselves by having 10 rousing to convert, and the awakened parts will be used in high-level crafting recipes for all professions. Every other mat mostly will be crafted by your own profession using these ingredients and other stuff you find out in the world. As mentioned earlier, when you gather materials, they come at a specific quality, making gathering better stuff be a bit harder. To get better hides, better ore, better herbs, and so on, you level your gathering profession just like you would your crafting one. And the better materials, stuff like lustrous scaled hide, also have a difficulty in obtaining them, influenced by your personal skill. If you don't have the necessary skill to get it though, you can still loot it, but with a very low chance of dropping. With your gathering profession, you will be able to refine materials to a higher quality, something unlocked through the sub-spec of said profession. Through the spec, you also get more points into increasing your skill to gather certain materials as well, so you can see how it all starts to synergize with itself. Not to mention that gathering professions unlock perks as well. Using myself as an example again, I unlocked Bait Crafter, and specifically the ability to craft elusive creature bait. This is a consumable that summons a specific beast that I can kill and skin and get one of its unique items, like the pristine Vorkin horn I mentioned earlier. Unique items are used in unique item recipes, and this is one way you can get them outside of outright farming them in the open world. Overall, the profession changes are massive, really massive, and we have covered the general stuff here with examples from my adventures as a skinner and a leather worker, and look how much this already is. We personally love the new profession system. It actually fuels my interest in the open world to a massive degree, and make me want to log on just to further open up new options in my subspec. And just because of how much info it is, we had to do it in a general sense and not talk individually about each profession. It's a very ambitious system, and I hope the devs keep improving on it and make it interesting as the patches go on. But what do you think? Is it something that you will want to grind for? It is the ideal grinding system. Do you agree? And if not, let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you actually start to understand what it means to be a crafter and a gatherer this time around in Dragonflight, and that we have answered some questions. And of course, if you have more of them, we will make more of these videos to answer all of the mysteries of the professions in Dragonflight. Thank you for watching the video, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.